Hello, everybody. It's 12:54 a.m. Central Time on the 5th of October, 2023. And we're here to do an earthquake update, bring you up to speed on what has struck since my last update. Try to keep my voice down. Got my window open. I don't want to wake up the neighbors down the road. So, just kidding. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and turn on a display capture and just show you what I'm looking at. We're using Earthquake 3D, the program. In case you're not aware of the program, we use it, of course, to keep track of the earthquakes. And USGS EMSC feeds were turned on for the last several years. Now we're just using the USGS and Geophone Potsdam. So I had to turn off stop using the EMSC feeds if you're keeping track of the feeds we're using. So that being said, if you're not aware, a large earthquake has struck here off the coast of Japan, as well as a large earthquake down here in Philippines that didn't get much coverage. Two of the same sized earthquakes. This one down in the Philippines, 6.4. The one up here in Japan, 6.6 to 6.8. Now, in some instances, showing reports, small tsunami warning or watch was issued by the Japanese agency. And let me go ahead and get a window open here. We'll take you over to the news that was posted on this from Japan itself. Here's NHK News over out of Japan, and here's the update on this. Actually, they've now updated and they have canceled the tsunami warning or watch, but 6.6 is where they had it when they made the report 3 hours ago, and some reports going as high as 6.8. Now, if you're not aware, let me take you over to my YouTube channel over here on my videos. And 2 days ago, issuing a warning for the plate boundary off the coast of Japan, right next to where the swarm is taking place. And I'll just go grab an earthquake. We'll just go pull one. Well, actually, that's from the Australians. I'd like to pull one maybe from the USGS if I can get that open. There we go. Now, hopefully you can see this on the screen. I'm going to take you into the USGS plate boundary map, and we'll zoom in over at Japan. So here we are off the coast of Japan, far southeast. Here's our key down in the lower left-hand corner, 200 miles or 300 kilometers. So we're like 400 miles off the coast. There's our swarm back here on the lower left-hand side or southwest side of the red line. The red line is the plate boundary. It goes up and makes an H-shaped bend in the plate. Now, our new outbreak has taken place to the east by northeast of the current swarm that's here. You'll look over here and you'll see there's now a swarm going on over here. And our big earthquake struck over here in between the two, right on the left-hand side or the west-southwest side of the plate boundary, that is. So we were looking here. We were looking anywhere from where the current swarm is all the way up to the H-shaped plate boundary. We also talked about watching down at Taiwan, Philippines, Indonesia, and we were looking for 6.0 level activity to return, as well as we warned Nepal. So let's go take a look and see what happened. Before we get into Nepal, we did return to 6.0 level activity. There's no doubt about that. The 6.5, 6.4 to 6.5 that struck down here on the plate boundary, right where Philippines meets into Indonesia. Now look down here, guys. There's the red lines again. Now let me just retrace. Up here, 6.6 and tsunami. Down here, 6.5 and close enough to land. It didn't cause any kind of tsunami. Wouldn't you call a 6.5 and a 6.6 two of the same size quakes on both sides of this plate boundary here? The next step on this is to see a spread go over to the west, over towards India, Nepal, and up to the north. Well, I shouldn't say the next step. The current step on that is going over to Nepal, and we will watch for a break up here on the north side of Japan pretty soon here. Now let's get into Nepal. So in my last update, I talked about watching where the two sets of rings overlap. Let's get those on here. Get all the smaller earthquakes out of there. Here's our 5s. So when I did my update 2 days ago, the 5.3 was here, and the 5.4 was there. There was no earthquake in the middle here. And let me take you over to the USGS map. See the red line again? This is the Indo-Australian plate that we're talking about here with this big red line that goes across India and Australia. Anyway, Nepal's up here right where my mouse is. Let me again make sure that you can see this. So Nepal right here, the center of the screen. And when I did my update, these two earthquakes were there, and I talked about watching the middle point where the two sets of rings overlap along the plate boundary for a new outbreak that's the combined total of what's on both sides. And if we take a 5.4 plus a 5.3, we get 5.7. Simple addition. So 5.4 plus 5.3 equals 5.7. 5.7 in the middle. 5.7 struck today, or last night, right along the plate boundary. So a greater earthquake struck in the middle after the two struck on either side. Let's go back and just explain what's going on there. So first, earthquake over here, where my mouse is, and then earthquake over here, and the new point in between the two, along the plate boundary, breaks out in the middle, rough middle point, with a new outbreak that's the combined total of what's on both sides. It adds up and breaks in the middle, in between the two other quakes. Only took 48 hours for that to happen. Now, the spacing on this is like a standing wave. What's going on here is a reflection of a wave, I think, back and forth, and the new middle point breaks as the standing wave is going back and forth on this edge of the plate boundary. It's going to try to go out over to the west, and it will go out over to the west. It did go out over to the west. Let me show you. The previous push went out over to the west. Look what just hit up at Iceland. So, X marks the spot at Iceland. Let's show you where Iceland is. Follow these red lines from where I just told you at Nepal, over across Europe. We go across Italy. We go across, and you see there's a T intersection out all the way over at the Azores. And you'll see, here's Iceland all the way up here. And you'll also see the USGS doesn't have anything connecting between South Europe and Iceland. Let's go back to my map. There we go. Now take a look at it. You see these three sets of arrows. USGS map has jack squat. Meanwhile, the earthquakes go around the outside edge of Europe, up across Poland, also goes right up to the center, and is focused back down this way, out towards the Azores. A few days ago, boom, out at the Azores, 5 to 5.2. A few days ago, 5 struck here at Italy. You guys remember, right next to Campi Flegrei. USGS ignoring the earthquake, full 4.9, whatever. So, Italy got a significant earthquake this week. USGS ignored it, in case you didn't know. Campi Flegrei supervolcano, where they're talking about issuing warnings for evacuations and talking about extinction level event eruptions and then denying it. At the same time, they're talking about it in the media and talking about Campi Flegrei being a big threat. Then they deny the earthquake that's right next to it, and the USGS ignored it. That's what happened this week. So a 5 or near 5 struck down here first, as well as 4s in Croatia. Croatia is right, and Bosnia, right here. So they're right next to each other. So a series of significant earthquakes struck right at Italy. Now wait, hold on. Back to the red line map again from the USGS. Look at Italy. Look at Bosnia. Look at Croatia. So Campi Flegrei, near 5.0 level activity, or a 5. And then 4s right across the Adriatic Sea. And then 4s went up around Poland. USGS ignoring those quakes as well, I think. Hold on, let's see if they've got it. Yeah, Geophone Potsdam carrying it. USGS ignoring it. And it was 4.2 or 4.3. Basically the same size. Mid-range 4 going around the outside edge of Europe's dropping off of 4.5 or mid-range 4 in Poland. You don't have to take my word for it. Feel free to go over and check Geophone Potsdam. The feed I'm using now is only 20 earthquakes long. So anyway, what I'm getting at here is that 4.0 level activity went around the outside edge of Europe. 4.0 to near 5.0 struck right here in the middle. Then, boom, went around the outside edge out to the letter X. Letter X is a termination point where we look for the energy to actually go back through the planet and come back out on what's called the antipode with new deep earthquake activity. So we would look over here for new deep earthquakes as the wave goes back through and is recycled back through the planet. Now let's recap, because this is a lot going on. We went back up into the mid-range 6 to upper 6 level. A tsunami, or warning, was issued today, right in the spot where we issued the warning, here off the coast of southeast of Tokyo, on the plate boundary, right next to it. Then, also, around the same time in the last 24 to 48 hours, Nepal got hit by a significant sized quake on the plate boundary there. And, check off the list, over here at X marks the spot where we expect this to all flow to. That's last week's flow, finally reaching out, around, and over to the termination point. Now, a new push is coming across now that's greater, as you can see here in the last 48 hours, which means we're going to see excitement over to the west, and we need to warn the people in between here and here. So let's go back and recap one more time here in the Asia Mideast area. So we got a 5 and a 5. Let's go back 2 days. This 5.3 and this 5.4 were there, prompting me to issue the warning in the middle point between them two for a greater earthquake. Now let's go over to the west. Do the same thing. But we have to turn down the magnitudes to get our 4s on here because that's all we're dealing with is 4s over to the west. So what would you say the halfway point is between this 4.1 and this 5 if we go around the bend of the plate? Let's go to the USGS map. Let's do it there. So 4 over here at Turkey, and we got the 5 over here at Nepal. And if we go around the bend of the plate, what's the halfway point? If we were to straighten this out into linear miles, we could do it almost exactly. That's what I need a supercomputer for, to do the forecasting. We need to be able to stretch these all out in straight lines so that we can find the halfway points perfectly and then put them back on the plate boundary map once we're done using them. The lines, I mean. Anyway, halfway point between here and here if we go down and around and back up. I would just say it would put us somewhere down here at South Iran. But there's a trick about South Iran. Well, not a trick. It's just something that I had to figure out on my own. Take a look at Iran here. Now, in South Iran, the USGS has the plate boundary marked in red. Notice in North Iran, they don't have anything, right? Well, that matters because I've got 2 sets of arrows there. Why do I have a set of arrows on the north side when the USGS just has the plate boundary on the south side? Well, the earthquakes go around the north side. But look at the mountains. Let's go over to Google Earth. Show you on the actual topography. Well, supposed actual photography. Aerial, whatever you want to call it. There we go. And I could turn off the volcano place marks if you need to, but you should be able to see, here's Iran, here's Pakistan, here's Afghanistan, and we go around the bend of the plate on the north side, we go around the bend of the plate on the south side. Now, there's a person, not me, a Dutch earthquake predictor, who's issued a warning down here on the plate boundary down on the south side for an extremely large earthquake to strike by like today or something. Or tomorrow. It's like today or tomorrow or something. I mean, it's like a near-term warning this guy issued. Now, nothing's hit there yet. And I wouldn't look there. I would look on the north side in Iran all the way over here. Now, you'll notice the mountains look like some kind of flowing river. These are mountains. These aren't rivers or riverbeds. This is not from water erosion, at least not from what I know of. This is from bending in the plate, and it breaks around the center of the Craton in Iran and goes on the north side and on the south side. What goes on the north side and south side? Should ask yourself. Some kind of wave. A wave is going that way and this way, like a break in a river. And the earthquakes go that way, and the mountains are bent that way because the wave is going that way. So it's not really circular reasoning or circular logic here. Like, why are the mountains shaped that way? Well, because of the wave. Well, why is there a wave? Well, because the mountains are shaped that way. That's why the wave is going that way. It's just the way it originally broke a long time ago, I suppose. And the wave that's passing on both sides of Iran and Pakistan, Iran on the north side, Pakistan on the south, it breaks. It's coming from over here. It goes up, breaks 2 ways, comes back together over at Turkey. Let's go back to the USGS map. Now look at Turkey. So while they don't have anything in Iran on the north side, on the south side, you can see it pinches back together over at Turkey. So I'm going to watch over here in North Iran, right at the Caspian Sea, just east of Tehran. And then we're going to watch over at Turkey. And it should be about 5.7. That's what's coming across now. The wave, equal to 5.7. Total amount of energy. So 5.7 worth of energy is coming across. Should break on the north side of Iran. Then over at Turkey, that would put it into the Adriatic Sea and Crete again. And it will be in the mid-range 5 as well. So we're talking about 5s, mid-range 5s, and that's pretty significant for the area, but nothing to be too worried about. If it goes any bigger, I apologize, but I'm only basing this on what we currently see coming across. Currently coming out of Asia is 5.7. That should be what comes over to the west. Now for the rest of the plate, though, we're going back up into the 6 level as expected. Multiple 6s in a couple days' time. A small tsunami warning going on there. And then we get into the United States, Central America, South America, and Central America, South America has gone strangely quiet with large earthquake activity over many, many months. Have you noticed? Come on, like Chile, where are all the 7s and 8s? It's been months and months and months, and we've only seen a few 6s, maybe a 7 at the most. Not that much large earthquake activity in Central and South America. That's highly abnormal. That's weird. When 7s and 8s were striking several years ago when this was going on like a semi-weekly basis, we were getting 7s and 8s at the height of the solar maximum. This is like 2011, 2012. People told me, oh, Dutch, 7s and 8s happen all the time, happen every week. And I'm like, what? That was the excuse for when there were so many happening several years ago at the height of solar maximum. We're not there now, but I'm just saying that that was the excuse that was used all the way back then. And now here we are, and again, we go months without any 7 or 8 level activity in South America. That's highly suspicious, highly suspect. I wonder what's going on there, and I don't have an answer for that other than to tell you there hasn't been any, and that's really, really weird. I would look in South America in between the cluster here at the north side. So let's just wait for this to refresh. You see these 3 sets of earthquakes here, and you see that we have the Galapagos Islands right there. On the north side, you have Panama, where all 3 sets of rings overlap. Okay, well, we're going to watch there where all 3 sets of rings overlap. Additionally, down here to the south, you see this almost points like a big crescent shape or a big arrow pointing into South America. We'll watch right here, right where all the sets of rings overlap at the Chile-Bolivia border. And I'm going to watch for 2 of the same sized earthquakes on both sides. So let's watch for 6.5 level on the north side, 6.5 level on the south side. Both should get hit. Now the real question in the middle, in between the 2. So we have a cluster on the north side, should get a 6.5. Cluster on the south side should get a 6.5. So it's not like I'm going to look for one or the other. I mean, really both should strike. In the middle, in between the 2, we have here at North Peru and in South Ecuador. Now, there's 2 volcanoes that are erupting there regularly, so we have to take those into account. We have Reventador and Sanjay, both still erupting there. They're regular eruptors. They're always on the list. However, it's quiet there seismically for many, many weeks. I mean, there's been some 4s and maybe a 5, but again, this is one of the most seismically active zones in the East Pacific. So if we're going to get a 6.5 on the north side, we're going to get a 6.5 on the south side. Think of it like a 2-arm scale, or like a flood that's hitting South America coming across from over here. And if the cumulative total over here is going to compensate on the opposite side, 2 6.5s in the middle, I'm thinking a bigger earthquake. By the end of this next 7-day time period, today's the 5th of October, so 7 days from now is the 12th. So by the 11th into the 12th, we're going to probably be looking at a pretty large earthquake down here in South America. Most likely on the north side, most likely in between these 2 sets of quakes that are currently going on either side. Think of it like this. Waves on one side, waves on the other, quiet in between. In between, the new set of waves is going to come up that's bigger. It's a standing wave principle. 2 waves on either side, and then the new middle wave breaks in the middle of the combined total between the 2 as they reflect into each other. And then the wave is trying to move, so it's going to go across over to the north and go across down to the south. You see our X to the south, down at South Sandwich Islands. You see our X to the north, east of the Caribbean. Both are going to be struck. It's going to be in the 6th level as well, so we should see 2 sets of 6s. Letter X, next several days, out in the middle of the Atlantic, out where nobody really cares. The only spot where people really care is back where there are people. So we're going to go back over here and look down on this whole hot mess of earthquakes at Puerto Rico, Eastern Dominican Republic. For the people in Puerto Rico, Eastern Dominican Republic, 5.0. We're going to take the combined total of everything here, plus what's coming across from over here. Take the 4.5, plus the 4.4, and we're at 4.64 or 4.7. Add another 4.6, we're at now 4.9. Take all the other 2s and 3s and 1s, add it all together. We're going to look down in the middle of it, and that puts us right here next to Puerto Rico. So 5.0 level coming in, it's no shock. I mean, come on, it's a bunch of 5s all the way around the plate. Why am I warning Puerto Rico? Let me show you the USGS map. Go back over here. There we are. Over to the east of the Pacific entirely, or the Cocos Plate here. We go over to the east, we follow this red line. Red line goes over, makes a bend, and dead ends. A wave is coming out, going across here. It's going to drop off a new quake in the middle of the hot mess at Puerto Rico. Most likely the north side of the island at the deepest part of the trench. 20,000 foot deep. It's not just a coincidence it's there 20,000 feet deep. It's folded and bent that way. United States. Let's talk about Alaska, Hawaii, west coast of the United States. We're not immune at this time, guys. It looks like we're going to be getting significant sized earthquake activity on the west coast again. I already have a warning going in Southern California. Central to Southern California, I apologize. So we're looking from Ridgecrest up to Sacramento. If you don't know where Ridgecrest is, if you don't know where Sacramento is, Ridgecrest's down here in the Mojave Desert or right on the edge of the Garlock Fault, and Sacramento's up here in the valley. We're looking between the two, and we're looking for 5.0. That's for the next several days. However, now that we're dealing with 6s across the plate over here, and we're most likely going to be dealing with 6s over here, it looks like we're going to be dealing with upper 5 to low 6 coming across through Alaska. So let's show you what we're talking about. Red line map again from the USGS. There we are. So 6s on the west side. We're looking for 6s over on the east side. And coming up, over, and around, we're going to look for a new 6 to break up in Alaska. So let's find the spot to watch. It's going to be pretty easy to focus in on. There's a bunch of earthquakes here, and we should be able to find the middle point between them all. We could turn on the rings if we need to, so just so we could see the plate a little better. So the rough halfway point between, if this is a bookend edge, and this is a bookend edge, the halfway point between the two would put us somewhere right in here, where there's no earthquakes. But there's something else there. Mount Shishaldin. Mount Shishaldin last week, or was it 2 weeks ago, put off a 42,000 foot high blast. So it was a pretty big blast. You didn't hear about it in the news, did you? Yeah, okay, anyway. Mount Shishaldin, right here in the middle in this silent zone. We call this the silent zone when there's no earthquakes in there, but there's a volcano that's there. I would expect it to be in the 6.0 level activity next to the volcano out here on the plate boundary. Next several days, so 1 week or less. Now, Hawaii. With everything else going on over here, with Mount Shishaldin and all the others going on the north side, volcanically speaking, Kilauea already broke apart a few weeks back. A new break happened inside of Kilauea crater. It was a big, impressive lava flow inside the crater. But it wasn't, anything catastrophic or anything. It was just really impressive looking. I would think seismic is about to take a step back up in Hawaii. Let's just take a look and see what the number of earthquakes is there. Wow, okay. It's not that, actually, I say wow. I'm looking at the others over in the United States. So here, it's not that many. We're looking at, what do you think, about 50 different earthquakes. We've seen hundreds, if not thousands, in the course of a day's time. That lets us know something's usually getting ready to happen volcanically when you see the hundreds or thousands of earthquakes there. In this case, we're dealing with like 50. But you can see there's a path of earthquakes that goes across the Big Island from the northwest part of the Big Island all the way down to the southeast. Do you see that? If we were to connect the dots, you could really just trace a line across the south side of Mauna Loa and then come back down to Pahala. Now, there's something on the northwest side of the island up there, and there's something on the southeast side of the island there. Let me show you. Hualalai, the volcanic field that most people don't even know about, on the northwest side of the island. So our earthquake is out here, and here is Hualalai. And it's just a large volcanic complex from a long time ago. And they all go in a line, the craters all go in a line. And they, of course, get progressively older as we go further away from the volcano, but you can follow them. And there's spatter cone after spatter cone all the way down to where there's younger outbreaks. So there's actually been outbreaks where it goes underneath all of this, breaks out down here. Anyway, our earthquake striking off the west side of Hualalai, and then there's a line of quakes coming down past Captain Cook, which is over here, and it goes right down to here. Now out here you see there's Kama Ahowea Kanaloa. Did I say it right? Kama Ahowea Kanaloa. I'm trying to properly say that. Now this was formerly called Loihi, so it was a little easier to say. This is an undersea mount that's going to eventually form into the next Hawaiian island, come up above sea level. Right now, we're still 4,000 feet down underwater, but anyway, that's an active volcano there off the coast. Pahala's there along the coast, and then we get back up to our active eruptors, which is Kilauea, Pu'u'o'o, and Mauna Loa. Nothing's been going on at Pu'u'o'o for a minute, but I'm going to tell you to watch for seismic to increase, going up to near 5.0 level activity, and maybe we should just keep watch between Kilauea and Pu'u'o'o. Did I say there was no seismic at Pu'u'o'o? Check it out. Hold on. Hold up. Speaking of Hawaii, hold up. I'm going to drop my mic next. It's an Obama joke, guys. You know, all the fake IDs are made in Hawaii. McLovin' it. You know what I mean? Remind me not to fly in small airplanes or go scuba diving in Hawaii. Okay. James Bond. All right. Pu'u'o'o. Uh-oh. Take a look. There it is. Now, we're getting seismic next to it all of a sudden. I would watch between Kilauea and Pu'u'o'o for seismic activity to increase up to near 5.0 level. I'm not going to say anything about an eruption. I don't forecast eruptions, but I would keep an eye on it, just in case, seismically speaking, up to near 5 next to Pu'u'o'o. Volcanics, well, keep watch on it just in case. Up in the Pacific Northwest, by the end of the next 7-day time period, I'm thinking we're going to see another 6 strike off the coast of Vancouver Island. The last one, few people felt. Some people on the coast felt it, but that was it. And that's good news. Now you'll notice there's no significant sized earthquakes reported there by the USGS. That's normal. They don't normally report earthquakes up here in the Northwest. They leave that to the Canadians, and it never makes it to the feed. Usually it's 0s, 1s, and 2s, sometimes 3s, that the Canadians report through here. So if we had the Canadian feed somehow able to be displayed on here, which we don't, but if we... Whoops, sorry about that, guys. Didn't mean to knock that over. Anyway, so here off the coast, if you could see the earthquakes going across this area, they would connect just like the earthquakes out of Alaska. It would just be a line of earthquakes going down through where this arrow is. And again, just go check the Canadian feed if you want to go see it. You have to go to their website to go get that. And what it would prove is that there's the same sized earthquakes up here in Alaska that are going through Canada and then coming into the Northwest United States. And I think the professionals deliberately hide that. I know it sounds conspiratorial to say that the professionals would hide anything from you guys, right? But what it would prove is that there's a transfer of energy going from up here, down across, and then going across North America. It would prove what I'm telling you. And professionals said what I'm telling you is not possible. All of it. So you see the earthquakes here on the screen? Going from Idaho, down through Utah, down through Texas, making a bend up into Oklahoma, then going east across the New Madrid seismic zone, then up the East Coast. Do you see that? This is 2 to 3 days worth of quakes, 0.0 and greater, reported from the USGS. So there's the magnitudes, but I'll turn them off just so you can see the shape. Now, this is a big deal. Seriously, listen to me, guys. Seriously, I talk about this all the time. I know I complain a lot, whatever, I sound whiny. Professionals denied and still deny this, what I'm showing you right here. That there's a flow of earthquakes that comes out of Alaska, goes down across Canada, and then goes down across the west coast, focuses in on the edge of the Craton, and goes up the east coast. They're still denying that. And this is 2 days worth of quakes reported from them. All of them, 0.0 and greater. Why deny it, right? Like, you can see it, right? Like, this is 2 days. Here's 7 days. It even fills it in more, right? So 7 days shows us the spread of earthquakes going across the edge of the Craton. Instead of going right across it, straight across it, it's going down through Texas and back up the east coast. Why does that matter? Well, it proves that there's a connection, a wave of some kind. Something's going across the plate, guys. It's dropping off the quakes along the way. This is the force that causes the earthquakes. There's something else that's going through the plate that's causing quakes. Some kind of very low frequency of some kind, obviously, by the spacing of this. Now, you can see it's focused in on the northwest and a big ring. So let's look at the bigger quakes. Look at this. Let me turn off the Craton graphic now. So, 4s on the west coast. There's the 4s. Then, here's the 3s. Whoops, there's the 3s. Here's the 2s. And then here's the 1s and the 0s. So 4s off the west coast up to 4.7 to 4.8. 3s going across 3.6 to 3.7 over to Texas drill points. 2s going over to the New Madrid seismic zone. 2s going up the east coast. 1s taking a step down by the time we get to the drill points in the nuke power plant up at the Great Lakes. And then 1s and 0s all the way up to the northeast. Then, cumulative total goes across on the north side, same size, mid-range 4, 4.2 to 4.5. So let's recap. Mid-range 4 over off the west coast, 3s going across the plate, 3s, 2s, 1s, and then around the north side, same size on the north side, going around. Now, professionals denied this. 8 or 9 years ago when I sent it to the top geophysics medal winner who was publicly mocking me, and I sent this to him, he said it was chance. And this matters because I've been smeared ever since, and it's a huge discovery to find that there's a flow of earthquakes going around the edge of North America, all the plates. It proves there's a flow of something. And if there's a flow of something, and we know where it's coming from, and we know where it's generally going to, guess what that means? If you know where something's coming from, and you know where it's going to, and you know the path by which it takes, and you know the speed at which it's moving, because you can see it with the quakes being reported as this thing's spreading across areas. It's dropping off the quakes along the way, so you can see the spread. It means you can forecast, almost like a flood in a river. And I showed this to the top professionals, and they all freaked on me. And they're still doing it now. So why freak on the spread of earthquakes going across the edge of North America following the Craton in North America, or going around Europe going the way I showed you here with the arrows? Why freak on that? It's a big discovery. I think people should be happy. But that gets into why they're hiding it. So why are we not reporting earthquakes off the coast of Canada? United States, I mean. Why is USGS ignoring the quakes there and making you go fish for them from Canadian agency? Because if they did report them, you would see that there's you would see it. You'd see 4s up here, and then you'd see 4s off the west coast of Canada, or 3s, a whole cluster, a swarm, and then you'd see a swarm on the west coast. And you say, man, it's transferring. There's something transferring. And then you lead to ask the simple question of, I wonder what's transferring? Tension, force, power. And then what kind of tension, force, or power? And then you trace it all the way back to where it came from. Where you trace the earthquakes that go from here back to here, which go back to here, which go back to here, where we're getting our big flare up now. So when I see a big flare up here, I have to warn everybody downstream from the big flood of seismic energy that's spreading out following the rivers, and the rivers are these red lines I've been showing you this whole time. I had to discover this all on my own, and every step of the way I did it publicly, and was mocked and ridiculed and denied every step of the way. And here we are now. So they're still denying that there's a flow of earthquakes going across the North America. Craton, sorry, I almost just sneezed in the microphone. But they're denying that there's a flow going across the plate, and this matters big time because if you deny that, you're going to deny everything I'm telling you from the point where I started till now. Meanwhile, there's a cluster of the same-sized earthquakes up at Yellowstone, going along the edge of the Craton down to the drill points down in Utah, down through New Mexico, over to the east across Oklahoma. Then we get to the New Madrid seismic zone, where the same size quake, a 2.9 to 3, struck last night into this morning. And 2.9 to 3 matters because a 3 struck down in Texas, a 3 struck back over here across the edge of the Craton, over at the Geronimo volcanic field, a rare earthquake at South Arizona, and a 3.3 also reported over on the west coast before all that began. So 3.3, 3.3, 3, 3, all the way across the plate. That's not much loss of energy. But it's proof that there's something going across. And look, it's following the direction that not just my arrows are pointing, but it's the edge of the Craton. Anyway, hopefully this discovery that I've made on the Craton and the flow of something and all this stuff will eventually be remembered somewhere. Now, a new development has happened today. Yellowstone has started to swarm. Take a look at the stack of earthquakes. This is a change from where we were 2 days ago. Now, anytime you start talking about Yellowstone, people start to freak. So I do not want you to think that we're talking about an eruption. We're not talking about an eruption yet. But a swarm at Yellowstone like this only happens a few times a year. Earthquake swarm. Now, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of tremors that happen every single day at Yellowstone. They're even reported in given magnitudes, but not to be confused with the earthquakes that we're seeing here that are going up to near 2.0. So tremors, vibrations as the magma is shifting down below along the edge of the North American Craton. One more time. Look at Idaho. Look at Yellowstone. Montana, Wyoming border region right there, okay, if you don't know where Yellowstone is. Now, that's on the edge of the Craton, obviously, and there's a swarm of earthquakes currently going on there now, which means we're about to swarm out downstream. This is a sign of something coming in from up here, a wave. Now, we already know that because I got the warning going down here in California, which we're going to get to in a sec. By the way, check out California in the last 2 days. Right? It's like two lines of quakes pointing down like a big arrow itself down to where we got the warning going down here. Anyway, up here on the north side, it also is pointing like an arrow on to the edge of the Craton. One more time. You're going to see this so many times if you watch my updates because this matters. This Craton thing, not just in U.S., everywhere in the world, does the same thing. The wave flows around the edge of the Cratons. So it points like an arrow. This wave focuses in from two directions, over on the west coast and up in the northwest, on the quakes you can't see from the Canadian Agency. Anyway, Yellowstone swarming. Don't confuse these earthquakes with tremors. These are actual quakes. It's nothing to be alarmed about. We see the quakes, the breaks above the magma chamber, as this thing breathes. It goes up and down by many, many inches every year, the whole region. And it moves to the east by southeast for the most part. Sometimes it moves to the west-northwest. Again, along the edge of the Craton. So Yellowstone is moving to the east, or east-southeast, and west by northwest. And it's regular occurrence, and when that happens, this happens. We can see this go up. This could go up to as big as we're looking down in Southern California. So I'm going to issue a new rare warning for Idaho, Wyoming, to be on watch for up to 5.0 in the next 7 days. This means also down through Colorado, southern Colorado, on the edge of the Craton. Right down at Trinidad again at the drill points there. Upper 4, enough to really get people's attention, knock down chimneys, break facades on houses, and knock things off shelves in southern Colorado. So, Yellowstone, Colorado, due for significant earthquake activity in the next 7 days based upon a swarm now and 6.0 level activity coming in over the next 7 days. So I think we're about to get busy on the West Coast. And this, again, like I said, I've already got the warning going down here in Southern California, which we're going to talk about in a second. And that's for 5.0 level activity. Now, you also notice over here in Oregon, there's a string of earthquakes going from the Washington border down across Oregon, back down to the California border. See that? Now, that points like an arrow over to the east too, doesn't it? Or like a parentheses shape. But it's like an arrow pointing to the east. Now, the reason I've got a big red arrow there is because I noticed the earthquakes were doing this 10 years ago. They were pointing like an arrow to the east. And this pointing like an arrow to the east-southeast. It's no coincidence. Over the last 7 days, you'll see it. Here, look, one more time. 7 days. Like an arrow pointing across Utah, for instance. Or like an arrow pointing down across the edge of the plate. So this is pattern recognition, but I didn't know what I was recognizing. I had to find out about the Craton afterwards. Anyway, why is there a path of earthquakes going across that area, I wondered? Turns out there's a plate, basically edge, that goes through there that the professionals have all discounted and dismissed. And they've dismissed that there's anything that can flow across anything. Now, I want to drive home a point here. Please listen to me now. It's not that one earthquake is causing the other. It's not that the earthquakes up here in Alaska are causing earthquakes in Canada, which are then causing earthquakes down here in the United States in this shape. There is a wave, very large, very low frequency, that's passing through the plates. And it's flowing in this direction. And when it gets into pinch points or weak points, it comes up and fractures. The wave comes up. And when it fractures, you get all the same sized earthquakes breaking out across a huge distance in the course of a day or two's time as the wave spreading across a huge area. The spacing is equal to a standing wave. Okay? Just if you're a science buff and you understand what I'm talking about. All right. I'm not going to try and explain standing waves right now. Over across on the West Coast, though, if we were to go look up these locations, you'll find many, if not all, of the locations are next to something lending to the cause of the quake. There's a reason the earthquakes are striking there. They're not just randomly striking at these points. So, for instance, this cluster here is on the flank of the crater of Mount St. Helens. These blue earthquakes that I'm marking right down here. And go to the north, and the other little cluster of quakes here is at Mount Rainier. So you got Mount St. Helens, and you got Mount Rainier. You're welcome to go fact check that if you need to. I could pull the coordinates. We're 37 kilometers north-northeast of Amboy, Washington. Again, guys, you know where that takes us. You get that tattooed on your lower back. You see it so much. Look, we're right in the center of the crater of Mount St. Helens. How did I know? Location memorized. So many earthquakes strike here. Don't be alarmed. This is a rising dome inside of the crater of Mount St. Helens. It's been rising ever since the blast, basically. Well, it took a little while, but it's been rising, and there's actually been a few blasts. 2005 was the year that it happened. There was a eruption in 2005 of Mount St. Helens, and it was like a small phreatic blast. It wasn't big. It's on the USGS YouTube page if you want to go see it. Anyway, so that's where the cluster is down here. And Mount Rainier, I shouldn't need to tell you about it. The 0.6 is directly below the crater of Mount Rainier, but I will show it to people if they haven't seen it before. It's literally right here. And the other earthquake quite literally down inside of the volcano. It's not a sign of eruption, don't worry. Just like the earthquakes at Yellowstone are not a sign of an eruption. It's a sign of movement. There's something going through it. A wave. The same thing that's going down across Oregon and spaced out with these quakes here. Spaced out almost perfectly like a standing wave. If you go look up the locations in Oregon, you're going to see they're either next to power lines, power generation points, or volcanoes. So, or they're listed as explosions. Yeah, oh yeah, hey, how did I know, right? Right? Okay, take a look at the screen, right? It says explosion on the screen. I just randomly clicked on a quake as I'm talking about explosions, and it's an explosion. Okay. Twilight Zone music, please. Let me get a sip of my coffee. What time is it? 1:30 in the morning? Yeah, perfect time to drink coffee. What do we got going on here? Some kind of black basalt feature. Hold on. What's that? That's a lava. Hold on. Oh, yeah, look at this. Hold on, this is an ancient lava flow of some kind. You can see the multiple layers. Hold on. You can see the multiple layers as it kind of like as the lava a long time ago gooped out at probably undersea volcano, maybe an ancient underwater volcano from here. Let's see if there's one nearby, a nearby marked volcano. Do we have any marked? Man, there's none marked nearby. The nearest is all the way over here. That's just really interesting. What do we have here? Oh, the reason for the explosion. That's right. Okay. Well, look at the black basalt, and it looks like some kind of lava rock they're getting out of this thing. Yeah, that confirms that it's an ancient volcano. Wonder why they're mining it, huh? Gee, is there anything else here nearby that's worth mentioning? What's this? What are those? What are those H-shaped buildings? Oh, never mind, guys. It's the Facebook data center and the Apple data center. The side-by-side Facebook and Apple data centers. How did I know? Well, we got an earthquake next to it. What would you do if I told you that this place is mysterious? And that they built these, the Facebook and the Apple data centers, they built them there for a reason. And the reason they built them there isn't for magic or geomancy or any kind of weird occult purposes. That they built them there to get free energy. Free wireless power. And there's wireless power in the plate, and they're harnessing that and keeping it a secret from the public. Now, to see what I'm talking about here, here's the earthquake epicenter, and literally the Facebook Apple data center is right next to it. Now, you'll notice there's a giant airport here with a big letter X shape. Okay, that's not a coincidence either, because when I back that out, you'll see that that big letter X shape is smack in the middle of what looks like a triangular shape. Now, you might not think anything, that doesn't mean anything, and this big crater-like shape that's on the back right-hand side of this triangular shape that has the Facebook and Apple data center in the center of it with the weird X-shaped airport next to it, and that's all just chance and coincidence, that this shape is just chance and coincidence, and that this big crater on the back right side is coincidence, and that this is coincidence that that's in the tip. But if I showed another one to you, this one is much more pronounced. And this one here is in the classic bastion fort shape. The problem is that it's 300 miles long, and on the backside, right side of it, isn't a crater. Well, I guess you could call it a crater. This is the Grand Canyon here, the whole Grand Canyon. So the Grand Canyon is on the back side of this one, and what's in the middle of this one? Edwards Air Force Base, with its weird X marks the spot in the middle of the desert. Edwards Air Force Base, right there in the middle of it. This thing, this giant bastion fort shape. So now wait a second. We've got this one with Edwards Air Force Base in the middle. And we've got this one over here that I just showed you with the crater on the backside and Facebook data center in the middle. Well, is there one in between? You bet there is. It's been weathered down over time. And where the two meet, where this one meets this one, right in here, we have Area 51 and the nuke test sites. Anyway, don't want to get too far into that. Well, what about the one in the middle? Again, if you have to look a world away to see it, here, Edwards Air Force Base in the middle. This one, Facebook in the middle, crater on the backside, Grand Canyon on the backside. The one in the middle here has Salt Lake City on the backside. And it comes up to a pinnacle point here between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. And guess what's there? Take a look. The Sierra Army Ammo Depot with all its bunkers at the pinnacle tip of that one. This one's a little harder to see. It's weathered down over time, but it's there. There's also a giant crater there between Lake Tahoe and Pyramid Lake. And you can now see where they come together, where the two lines come together in the desert themselves, going through Pyramid Lake. This is called Pyramid Lake, by the way. And at the tip of Pyramid Lake is the Sierra Army Ammo Depot and this giant crater. The ammo depot is there. The giant crater is here. This is lined with volcanoes and hit with earthquakes around the outside edge. I talk about it regularly in all my updates. So why am I taking the time to show that all to you? How about the earthquakes? We're getting earthquakes down below the tip of each one of these. So let's go back and talk about this back up here. The one that you might have just shrugged your shoulders at first and just kind of laughed when I showed you the Facebook data center and the Apple data center. So we got an earthquake below the tip of that, right? It's indisputable. That's what we're talking about now. That's where the earthquake is. It's below the tip of it, right next to the data center. Now, right here is the giant caldera where we get all the earthquakes and the fires and the ammo depot there. And then guess what? Guess what's at the tip of this one? Let me turn it back proper. How you normally view North America. This is the San Andreas. This is Fraser Park. This is the San Andreas, the main part that everybody always talks about. Okay. See, Gorman, Fraser Park, this is. So, this thing points to the San Andreas. This giant 300-mile-long bastion fort, or whatever you want to call it. And it was made by someone a long time ago, and there's earthquakes striking down below the tips of each of these. There's a military base built in the middle of each of these. And in this one over the far right, technically it's Facebook. So, military, everybody says it's military industrial complex, Facebook, I don't know. But Facebook and Apple, I just got shut off. My internet just got shut off. Everybody who was watching live just got shut off on Twitch. I am recording, though, thank goodness. So, when I start talking about certain things, my internet gets shut off. And I'm glad that I'm recording because, hey, my wife is here in the room with me. Duchess, you come on over here to the microphone for a second, because most people don't get to hear the Duchess's voice. Since I'm recording and we're not online right now, we've been fully killed. They literally have killed the internet.
Yes.
Come on up close. Come closer.
Go.
Wait, hold on. This is going to satisfy so many ASMR or AMSR people. Come closer. Oh, it's back on now. Here, come closer.
Come closer.
Come closer. Come closer to the microphone, babe. Hi. Hi, guys. I'm recording right now, and I've got the Duchess here. What time is it? Go ahead and read the time for her.
Everyone, it is 1:46 a.m.
What time? Central time?
Yes, Central Time. 1:46 a.m. Central Time.
What date? Because the trolls aren't going to believe this is real. And this is not AI, and I don't have a deep fake going.
This is...
Let's talk both at the same time so they know it's not us faking it. Come on.
Okay. October 5th.
October 5th.
2023.
2023. Yeah, that's... Anyway, guys, the reason I've got Duchess on here now, I'm stopping this damn update. I just got shut off while talking about something sensitive. But it's not sensitive, is it? Come on, I mean, it's star forts and Facebook and the military bases. What it proves is that the military bases are built there on purpose inside of 300-mile-long star forts that were built thousands of years ago by some giant race or something. I don't know who built these things. All I know is that whenever I talk about them, I get shut down. Mm-hmm. Why is everybody freaking, man?
They just can't handle it.
It is weird.
Yeah.
So the Grand Canyon blew out a long time ago. And the big crater on the backside over here. Mm-hmm. And then Salt Lake City down here. It's a giant, look at that. Mm-hmm. It's 3 prongs on a huge star fort. And that's just one of the many I've found across the planet. And there's no doubt about it because the military base in the middle of each one. You'd have to tell me it's chance that there's a military base in the middle of this one, military base in the middle of this one, and Facebook data center is in the middle of this one. They're all harnessing wireless power, obviously. Right?
Obviously.
Yeah. All right. I'm ranting. They just shut me off while I was live. I'm so glad I'm recording. Nobody believes this shit.
Off on. All day.
Yeah, all day, honestly. Each time I'm trying to speak, right?
Yeah.
All right, man. Guys, you get to see what I go through real time. I'm moving this shit out of here. We're getting an office. I don't know how that's going to help any. I'll sign a lease somewhere. It's going to end up screwing me. The realities of life, kids. Your teacher hates his job. Well, not really. Okay, never mind. Now it will turn into a rant. These damn Zoomers keep shutting me off. Shut off my internet connection. People tell me to get Starlink. I'm like, dude, I had it. You know, this is a true story. I'm gonna end this update by telling you a true story, and we're gonna upload this to YouTube. Story time. It's late night. First of all, I warned Japan and it got hit, but nobody cares about that. Let's talk about my Starlink connection getting shut off when I go on live. So I signed up for the Starlink test program years ago when it first went down. And of course, they didn't, take care of me till years later. So it took 2 years of deploying satellites. Finally, the test programs deployed over the Midwest United States. And they put a hexagon cell right over my town of New Melly, Missouri. Or Marthasville, Missouri. It's this tiny little town here. I've already been doxxed. Everybody already knows where I live. Anyway, they put the hexagon only over me, not over St. Louis. Just over my house. Seriously, not kidding. Everybody's like, what? I'm like, yeah, look. And I showed the map to everybody. It was like, wow. So I turned it on, and it worked great. Screaming. It's running. I left it run for days. I then got on to speak after like 2 days of letting it run. And as soon as I turned on the microphone and started to speak, it went off. Now people said, oh, it must be the satellite adjusting or something. Okay, this is where the frickin' fiasco begins with Starlink. Now, the reason I had Starlink is because cable, DSL, and mobile had all been shut off simultaneously previously. So the cable, DSL, phone, and fiber all shut off. The mobile connection actually isn't an option here. But all three shut off at the same time. Multiple times, hundreds of times, each time I get on to talk. Which is why I got Starlink. So then I get on to talk at Starlink, and boom, Starlink's off. People told me I needed to maybe put it on my roof. So I did. I put Starlink on the roof. It connected in, ran fine, until I spoke on the microphone. We were testing it to see, am I getting shut off for speaking? What I'm saying or what I'm showing? Who's doing this to me? Who has access to cable, DSL, and Starlink? Right? Now we're starting to get to a level where it's not a kid in a basement. No way that they could have access to all three at the same time. So if I go to cable and I do my update and I start talking and it shuts off and I switch over to DSL and then DSL shuts off and then I switch over to Starlink and Starlink shuts off, okay, I'm compromised. I'm getting shut off somehow. And don't tell me to get a VPN because you need the internet to get VPN. And when I mean shut off, I mean my internet shut off at the house. So it's government level or higher. And that is a true story about me and having Starlink. Then I turned off Starlink. I didn't stop paying, but I just turned it off. I unplugged it. And stopped paying, 6 months ago, I finally canceled my contract. Just let it go for month after month after month. And I never used it because every time I would talk, it would shut off. And the problem is that there's someone doing this, okay? So the point of the story here is that I just had to end my update because of someone dictating what I can and cannot say. They don't like me talking about the star forts with the military bases in them or showing the Facebook data center. There's earthquakes beneath each one, the tip of each base. The bases are hundreds of miles long. They had to have been built thousands of years ago, long time ago. They're so big that you can fit a military base, whole installation, inside the tip of one. So whoever built them a long time ago had the ability to sculpt and shape whole plateaus and mountains. That's the fact. Whether or not you like it doesn't matter. The military knows that's why they built their base in each one. And Facebook has to know, as well as Apple or somebody there, whoever built the place. They have to know. The chances of them building it there by chance are impossible, I would say. The chances are impossible, scientifically. It would be astronomical. Maybe one step below impossible. But I am recording all this, and I'm going to put it up uncensored, unfiltered. We'll go watch it back here on YouTube. This is what I have to deal with when I talk about sensitive things. And who would have thought weird-shaped forts that are thousands of years old and hundreds of miles long, built by an ancient civilization for some kind of wireless power, would be controversial? Who would have thought? I guess I should have guessed, right? I mean, come on. Listen to what I'm telling you. It sounds preposterous. But you saw it with your own freaking eyes. Go look for yourself. You guys got an earthquake plan? For crying out loud, man. Jeez. I'm doing this for freaking... What am I even doing this for? I am doing this for the truth at this point. It's not for money. I could probably make more selling seeds or something. So, I'm doing this because earthquake forecasting is something that humans wanted for thousands of years. I found a pattern and a progression of earthquakes. Everybody went nuts when I put it out to the world, and here we are. Japan's been hit where I issued the warning. Nepal's been hit where I issued the warning. Taiwan was hit where I issued the warning. I'm not bragging. I'm saying any of you could do this. If you learn the method, I already put out the method. I've already published how to do this. So there should be no controversy. There should be no controversy over me showing you stuff at star forts and military bases and all that shit. Shouldn't matter at this point. I don't know who's freaking on me doing this, shutting me down the way they are. I have no idea who's doing it. It could be anybody from government to private industry. I've ruled out a kid in a basement. You know how I've ruled out that it's a kid in a basement? 100% on this. It's been 8 years of it. So if they were a kid, even if they were 8 years old, they'd now be a teenager. And if they were a teenager, it's been 8 years, they'd now be an adult. And if they were an adult when they started, God help them, they're even now more of an adult. Or less. But the point is that if somebody's been doing this for 8 years, they're not a kid in a basement. They're now a teen in a basement, right? No way, man. No way. No way it's a kid in a basement. We're done. Have a good afternoon, morning, evening, or night. Don't be too discouraged. I'm going to keep going regardless of whatever happens to me. I have to. Don't ask why. Have a good morning, afternoon, night, or evening. Peace out. Oh, and look out for this over on YouTube to be uploaded as it is with all the little bullshit in it. It is what it is. This is what you have to go through to try and break through in the world of science that said none of this could be done or happen. Why do they say that is the question you should ask. We'll talk about that, hopefully, in my next update.